and today I'm going to show you what's in the April Bargain Bead Box. Now I am behind in making a video for this. I was having a few health issues and I am starting to feel well enough now to go ahead and show you this. I'm going to just kind of go through it quickly and then perhaps make a project. I asked on my Facebook page if people wanted to see the reveal or if they'd rather see a project, because at the time I didn't feel like I wanted to do both. But I'm going to show you what's in here, and then I think I'll make something out of it. Either I'll make a tutorial or I'll just go ahead and show you the finished pieces. But let's see what's in here first so I know what I want to do. So this, like I said, is the April Bargain Bead Box. You can get these at bargainbeadbos.com, and they are like $17.95 a month subscription. Really, really affordable bead box as far as subscription bead boxes go, and usually has some of the better variety of stuff in it, and always has really nice components and things. So if you want a box, you go to bargainbeadbos.com, and if you put in the code GGC2, then you can get a $2 discount if you're a first-time subscriber. So it comes in a nice little bag like this instead of a box to save on shipping costs or to save on packaging costs. And that way you get a little bit more in your actual bead box. And each bag is numbered. Comes with a key on the back of their introduction page here, which tells you about your beads and your coupon that you get for the sister store and a little contest that you can enter. And then on the back, it has the identification key so that you can look on the bag number 1 and see what's in it, and 2, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these in order, and I'm going to show you what's in here today, and then we're going to play with some of these things and see what we can come up with. I just kind of laid them in order here. There's generally 17 items in each box. It's around there, 17, 18, something like that in each box that comes. And the first one that I have here is a 15-inch strand, 6mm picture jasper round gemstone beads. And they're really pretty. I like jasper, picture jasper. It's nice. So we've got that. And then we've got number 2. It looks like it is some components, little connectors. These are 6-piece 11x9mm 4-loop chandelier components. So let me show you what those look like. Let's get you a little closer. And these are really, really cute. So I've got those, and I'm just going to go through this really quickly and then a couple large toggle clasps. These are 2 sets of 20x31mm toggles. That's pretty good size. Nice though, and they're pretty. And then number 4 is 12-piece textured floral drops. See, these are kind of pretty too. Look at that. And you could use those as little charms, really cute. Alright, we're going to put that in there. And then number 5 is 15-inch strand, 8mm brocaded jasper round. So this is some nice round jasper beads. Those are pretty. Nice gemstone. Oh, it's cold. Nice. Okay. Then we have number 6 is 16-inch strand, 4x3mm crystal rondelle beads. It's kind of a turquoisey green color, or green, I don't know. Mint alabaster bronze is what it is. It's pretty. I like the frosted look. And then number 7 is some bead caps. So it's 30 pieces of 8mm scrolled bead caps. Let's look at those real quick. Those are pretty. Bead caps are always nice to have on hand. And then this number 8, this is very odd. I saw this when I was putting this together, and honestly, I don't like them, but someone might. And this, it has like little drops. I don't even know what they did those drops with, some kind of acrylic or something. And there's a little extra thing in here. I don't know what that is, but So this is 5-piece 16 by 14 handmade lamp work glass desert rain beads. Kind of different. And then number 9, 100-piece 4mm spacer bead. So you can just see that it's just a steel colored spacer bead. That's nice. And then I got 2 number 10s bonus, eh? So I got 30-piece 7 by 3mm fancy saucer beads. So I got 60 pieces of these. Oopsie. But I like these saucer beads. I use them quite often when I'm stringing for spacers. I really like them. These are pretty. They have little like circles on them. They're nice. And I got 2, so hey, fabulous. Now, number 11, 2-piece, 32mm fancy cutout round focal. These are kind of cool. Huh. Interesting. I like. Okay. Having all kinds of weird little components like this, it's always fun because then when you're stringing or making pendant necklaces or whatever, it's really fun to have all kinds of different stuff to mess with. Now these are a gemstone. Let's see, this is number 13 and it is 24-piece 8mm sesame jasper faceted round beads. Those are pretty. That's nice. Oops, I just threw them everywhere. And then number 14 is 2-piece brass embellished glue-on bails. That's nice because I have some big pendants that I could just glue these on. So you can just open them a little bit, put them on your cabochon and close them with some glue. And these are pretty because they have a little turquoise bead in there. Turquoise colored bead. Yeah, nice. I can use these and I might use those in the projects I do today. And then number 15, or that was, what number was that? 14, yeah. So we're on 15, and 15 is 30-piece 6mm red jasper matte round beads. So let's look at these. More jasper, pretty. These are more matte finish, so they're not shiny, but they're pretty. And then I missed number 12. I don't even know if I did number 11. Yeah, I did. So number 12 is this great big, really nice pendant. And this is 42 by 33mm braciated, I'm not sure what that word is, jasper and silver tone brass oval focal. That's pretty. So that would go with this jasper here because it's the same stone. Nice. And then we've got number 16. I've stayed in close because I'm going through this so quickly. Number 16, 15.5-inch strand 4mm synthetic turquoise brown spacer beads. Ta-da! Beautiful. And then number 17 is 1 meter 3.4 by 2.8mm steel jewelry chain. That's nice. A nice piece of chain. And so that is what is in this, or April's bead box. And I'm sorry it took me so long to show you, but I think I'm going to make something. I think I'll make a few pieces and show you the finished pieces. And maybe, perhaps, come up with something as a tutorial. I don't know. It's easier to make the pieces with these because I only have one shot at it and it's hard to like play with it on camera. It's easier just to make a piece and show you than to try to find how to do it without actually sitting down and doing it and then showing you. So let me see what I can come up with, and that we'll be back with that. Okay, so how I do this is I just go through some of my personal stash, some of the things that came in past bead boxes, whatever, and I find things that match with some of the things that came in the current bead box. If I don't feel like I just want to make something right out of the bead box itself, which can be done, but usually what I will do is I'll just look around, see what I can find. Now, I wanted to show you how to use these glue-on bales, and I looked through my stuff and I found this really piece of sea sediment jasper, or I think that's what it is, not positive, but I decided that I wanted to use this because it's pretty and it goes with the little blue here. And then I picked out some little pieces of turquoise I had, not positive they're turquoise, but same type of color that's in the little embellishment here. I found some crystals that I thought were pretty with the pendant color, and some gemstones. So I'm going to use these faceted gemstones, and then I have some black spinel that actually came in a past bargain bead box. So I'm going to use some of this black spinel with it. Try to keep it mostly gemstone-ish. I might use some of these crystals. These are just regular Chinese crystals. I think they're a rondelle. They're pretty color and they'll bring out some contrast here, but all the rest of it's going to be gemstone, so I might just stay with gemstone. Doesn't really matter if I don't, but I might. And then I have another one of the clasps, of course, so I found this pendant that came in a past bargain bead box, and it has a hole drilled, but I'm just going to ignore that hole, and I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on bail anyway. And then I found some of these check fire polish beads that I've had in my stash for a very long time, part of a hank I bought a long time ago, and that's really pretty with that. And then I found some of these cat's eye beads that are really pretty. So I thought that they're faceted and they're very gemstone-ish. So I thought I would go ahead and use those with this. And then I've taken out some of the things that came with the box this time. Some of the saucer beads. I got 2 packages, so I have a lot to use. And then some of the bead caps, I might use that, I might not, and some of the silver spacer beads here. So, and the clasps. So that's what I do. I just go through and look at stuff. So let me show you how to put these bales on. And then I'm just going to put this under my cabochon because I am a mess with glue. What I've done is I took a pair of my chain nose pliers, because sometimes these pendants, if I can find my chain nose pliers, these bail holders are kind of weird. So I just took mine and kind of bent it in a little bit, because when I slid it on my cabochon, kind of stuck up on the edge. So what I've done is I bent it out. You can just adjust it by bending it in and out. I bent it out, put it on. I want it on this side, I think. And if it's sticking up and not on there quite right, you can just take a hold of it and just kind of gently move the bail itself so that it isn't sticking up. Now let's see what I did. Actually, I made it nice. It fits really tight on there now. It's not sticking up away from the cabochon at all. It's flush on both sides, and I can just find where I want it to be. And then I don't use glue a lot, guys, so I'm a mess with it. I'm going to see, I've got this little Q-tip. I'm going to pull the cotton end off of it as much as I possibly can. I don't want any of that cotton in on my piece. And then I'm just going to use some of this Aleene's metal glue. I love this stuff. It works really good. You can get it online at eBay. You can usually, or not eBay, but Amazon, and you can usually find it at Walmart too. So I'm just putting a little glue inside there. Might be better without the weird help of the Q-tip. And I'm just putting some inside here. You don't need a lot. You don't want it to come squishing out too badly. A little bit will. Then I've got this lint-free wipe that I'm just kind of using to make sure that I can clean up my messes. And put this on. And arrange it. And it dries really fast, so you kind of have to get it on there. Let's see, is that straight? I think that's pretty straight. I hope it is. And that's all there is to that. Now I will let it dry and see how well it's stuck on there. If it's not really good and I can pry it off by pulling on it, I'll do it again. But I think that it should be okay. So I'll just lay that aside. And then I will do the same thing with this one. This one has a little hole in it, but I'm just going to ignore that hole. I've already played with this bail so that it slides on here pretty nicely. See if I like it. And if I don't, I will adjust it some more. Just do it gently so you don't break your bail. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's do the same thing again. And put it on the outside where it touches a little bit more this time. Last time I put it on the inside of the bail a little more. So I'm trying to put it on the rim here. And then I'm going to slide it on. And like I said, I don't use glue a lot, so if I look a little unpracticed, that's because I am. Try not to get it on your stone. Oh, get on there. And then I'll just clean off whatever I got on my stone gently. I'll get a little razor or something, or just scrub it off very lightly without scratching my stone. But I got a little bit on there, but I'll clean that off. Anyway, that's what that looks like. Now I'm just going to set these on here and let them dry. And then when they are dry, I will go ahead and design a necklace for these guys. Okay, so these are all dry and ready to go. And I'm going to design one necklace right now so you can see how I do it. I have cut 2 pieces of 7-strand beading wire. This is a beading wire I bought a long time ago. I don't even know if you can still find it. I may have bought it at Walmart in Nebraska years ago. But it's a 7-strand, just a regular beading wire. It's 0.3 millimeters. It's just a fine beading wire. You can use any one you want as long as it's fine so that you can use 2 wires. And what I'm going to do, let me back off just a little bit here, is I'm going to start by putting the ends of 2 of them together here, and then I am just going to pick up 6 11-0 seed beads. So what I've added to my mix is a couple of crimp beads. I've got a size 2 regular crimp tube, and then I've got a size 1 round shape crimp bead. And I'm not sure what I'm going to use. I just have them both ready. And I've got some jump rings too. And I also added some 11-0 seed beads. These are Toho and they are nickel plate. So I'm going to pick up 6 of these nickel plate beads on both wires, and keeping the 2 wires together and picking them up is taking me a second longer, so just hang on there. Let's see, I've got 5, 6, and I'm just going to bring them to the center of my wire. I'm going to back off a little for a few minutes here, and I'll put the 2 ends, I'll all four ends actually together. And just bring these to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point, but I just want it somewhat centered. And then I'll go ahead and use this pendant. I'm going to drop this pendant on both wires and bring it down to the seed beads and bring the seed beads center in the pendant. Center my wires again, and like I said, it's not critical at this point. I'm just trying to keep it somewhat centered. And then I am going to pick up one of these saucer-shaped beads that came with the box, and I'm going to put it on either side of the 11 O's. So one on both sides here. And then I am going to pick up on each wire. I'm going to separate on one side. Now you can take a little clip or a piece of tape or something and put it on this side if you want. You're going to be moving it a lot, so tape is really not all that practical. But I'm going to do both sides at the same time, so I'll do one side then the other side. So I'm going to pick up one 11O seed bead on each wire. And then I'm going to pick up some of this black spinel, and you can use anything that's tiny. So these are probably about 3 millimeter round. You could use a 2x3 crystal, rondelle, whatever you'd like if you don't have any of this from a past box. And these have little tiny holes, and they're really dark beads, and they're hard to see, and I have found it very difficult to string these. So I'm going to pick up 3 on each wire here. And see if I can do it fairly quickly. 3 on that wire. And then I'm going to pick up 3 on this wire. Man, those holes are hard to find. Oh, come here. So I'm going to go ahead and string these, and then I'll come back. Well, maybe I can do it. I just don't want to bore you guys to death trying to find the holes on these stupid beads. And it's probably just my eyes, it's not the beads, but I don't usually have this much difficulty. So yeah, I'm going to string 3 and I'll be back. Okay, so I have 3 on each side here, as you can see. And now I'm going to pick up an 11O seed bead on each wire. And then another of my saucer-shaped beads, and I'm going to put the wires together. So the way I'm stringing this is just so that I can separate the wires whenever I want and make a double strand like this. And I'm going to get a little closer so you can see how pretty that comes out. Now, they kind of flip and turn. They're not going to stay perfectly straight like that, but it's still really pretty and it works out fine. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I've slid the saucer bead on. I'm going to pick up a cat's eye and put it on. And then I'm going to put one of these turquoise type beads in so I can just integrate this with this. And then another cat's eye. And then I'm going to put a saucer bead on. And then I'll put an 11O on each side. And then I can begin my separation of my wires again. I'm going to go ahead and do this side now just so that I can kind of keep things centered. So, whoopsie, as I do this, I move my wires. So I'll just kind of put these back together, back off so you can see what I'm doing. I'll just kind of put these together and center it as I do this. I'm going to go ahead and do this side now. And then I'll separate my wires and continue beading just whenever I want to separate them. I can put 2 layers of the black spinel or whatever I would like to do. And so I'm going to continue doing that, and then I'll be back to show you my progress. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone just so far on either side, and I've decided I want to set these so that they don't move, so that the center part of my necklace has the tension that it needs to stay looking like this. Now, Otherwise, I'd have to bead all the way to the end and then make sure when I do my clasping that I don't lose any tension. And all my beads on my entire strand would be very, very tight. And I don't want that. I just want this portion pretty tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up onto both sides a number size 1 crimp bead. Now you can use a size 2 also, and these are just fine wires, and when you crimp it you'll just have to squeeze it really tight on the second squeeze. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a size 1 on each side, and then I'm going to make sure this is centered pretty well. Just put my two ends together and make sure it's centered, and then I'm going to just kind of clamp off this side here, and that has a little wiggle worm, so you don't want so you don't want to push it too tight. It's just there to just basically hold it. And now I'm going to make sure my wires are not crossed on this side. I'm going to separate them a little bit, and then I'm going to zoom you in so you can see. So I've got my wires separated, they're not crossed. I'm going to pick up my crimper, and I'm not using a micro crimper even though this is size 1. I'm just using regular size crimper, and I'm going to put this flat part against my beads, and I'm going to put this crimp bead into my pliers in the second divot, the one closest to the handles, and I'm just going to squeeze. And now I've crimped these two wires together, and then I'm just going to go into the divot, the round divot closest to the front of the pliers or the crimp tool, and I'm going to squeeze sideways. So I place the crimp bead in there sideways, and I'm just going to crimp it. And now I have a nice little round looking crimp right here, and everything's nice and firm. So what I will do again is on this side, now I'm pretty well stuck. Wherever my wires are, as far as my centering is, I'm stuck because that's my stop. So I'm going to push up against it, and I'm going to separate these two wires on this side. And I am going to crimp this side by putting that in my second divot, pushing against my bead as I do this, pulling on my wires, and crimp. And now I'll get you really close so you can see what my crimp. There's a little too close. Okay, come on, focus, focus, focus. Let's see. Okay, so now you can see it kind of forms little tubes, and I have one wire on one tube, the other wire on the other tube, and then I go into this divot here, the front divot. So the second divot is here. It has kind of a squiggly on one side and a round circle on the other side, and then the second divot is just, when you put it together, it looks like a circle. We're going to put that bead in there sideways and crimp. And now I have a nice little stop for everything on my wires, and I can separate my wires, and now I can do whatever I'd like. This will stay together, but I'm going to separate my wires and do some black spinel, longer pieces here, and then I will go into making more solid beading like this. But I put a couple bead caps here from the kit or from the box that we got, and I'm just going to do whatever I want. So now this is set, and I can work on the end of my necklace. So I don't have to worry about this falling apart or coming uncentered anymore. And I will just separate these two wires. I'm first going to put on, I think, I'm going to put on a saucer bead. See if it'll slide over that bead. It might not. Depends on how big the hole is here. And put this on. No, it doesn't, but that's okay. And then I can just put an 11-0 on each wire and then make myself a separation with some black spinel. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll come back to show you how. So when I stopped the video last time, I stopped right here. And then what I did was I separated my wires, and I put on a saucer bead, 2 11-0 seed beads. Then I put on towards the inside 8 of my black spinel and 9 on the outside, and then 11 O's on each side, a saucer bead, And then I went ahead and put on some bigger beads divided by saucer beads, and then I crimped again right here so that I could pull all this tight, puff out the beads that I put here, and then set them. So I put another a little crimp, number one crimp right here. And then I just went ahead and strung. I put on the bigger beads with some 11 O's, saucer beads, and a bigger bead, and I just kept going until I was able to clasp the end. Now, I have the other end exactly ready for clasping. So I've done exactly the same thing all the way up, and I'm ready to put on my clasp. I've dropped a size 2 crimp bead right there. I'm using a size 2 because I'm doubling my really fine wires, and so now they won't be so fine because there will be 4 of them running through. So now I've got a couple of inches left to work with to put my clasp on. I'm going to put this end on and then run it through the crimp bead right here and through the first bead here. If you'd like, you can go through the 11O also if you can, but the wires seem to want to divide and not all of them go in there, and they need to go in there well. So I'm just going to go through the first big bead here. Then I'm going to scoot everything together, pushing down on my crimp bead, pulling my wires, just making sure that my tension is good and everything is aligned. Make this side loop that goes around your clasping about the same side as this side. So I'm going to bring this in a little bit more, and then I can just push this crimp bead down, and you just adjust until you've got everything looking just how you would like it before you set it completely. And that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to grab my crimping tools. I'm going to put the flat side here against the bead and go into the second divot on my crimping tool, the divot closest to the handle, and then I'm going to squeeze. And then I'm going to turn them sideways, move into the first divot, and squeeze again. And then I'm going to, now that I have that crimped, it's set, it feels tight, I'm going to separate my beads like this. This is where my tail is sticking out, and I'm going to get some end cutters. I'm going to use these ones because my other ones aren't working well. And I'm going to get as close to the end of that bead I can and cut those tails off. And that is how I finished my necklace. Let me show you what it looks like. Move all this stuff out of the way. Let me back off. And this is what my necklace looks like. And when I wear it, this will have movement here, and it's just really pretty. So that's just one way to kind of creatively crimp and make a piece. I'm going to go ahead and make another piece with this one, and I think I'm going to make a bigger section towards the front here of beads that will separate. I may just get some little crystals because this black spinel drives me crazy trying to pick up. I may get some little tiny 2x3 crystals or something, and then I will come back and show you the finished project. It is exactly the same process. It's just that you can do almost anything with it. If you start in the center and you have 2 wires, you can divide them, you can put them together, you can make all kinds of different looks. If you vary the number of beads towards from the outside bigger than the number on the inside, you'll get a flared look like this and a round shape. So you can do that also, and maybe I'll just go ahead and do some of that too. But it's just a very basic, very easy project to do. So let's go ahead and come back in a few when I have something else to show you. Okay, with this one I want to do something a little bit different. I've cut my 2 wires again, and I've slid 5 11O seed beads on this time because I decided I wanted my section in the middle to be a little bit shorter than last time. So I've put 5 11O seed beads on and centered them. Then I'm going to put my pendant on and just bring the 11 O's under it. Doesn't have to be perfect because they're not going to stay there yet. And then I just want to bring my wires together on the end here and make sure that everything's pretty well centered. This wire's all curly. That's okay, maybe I can make it work anyway. And then I am going to pick up a saucer bead and an 11-0. And then I'm going to pick up a 6 millimeter check polish, fire polish. And then I'm going to put these back together over here. And I'm going to pick up an 11-0. A check fire polish. Whoops, excuse me. I need to have a saucer bead first. So I'm going to get my wires back together here again, pick up a saucer bead, and then I will pick up an 11-0 and the check fire polish bead. And then I will pick up an 11-0 on either side of the check fire polishes beads. And as I'm doing this, I'm just going to keep centering my wires so that I don't get them all out of whack. Because when you have 4 wires, you can get them uneven on both sides, or even one wire shorter than the other on either side. So you need to just keep adjusting them as you do this. Then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead on both wires on both sides. So I've got that one. And then here I'm going to do this again. And then I'm going to put all 4 wires together, make sure they're centered, make sure they're all pretty even on the end here, on this end, as even as I can get them. I'm not going to get them perfect, but I'm going to get them as even as I can. And then I'm going to put all 4 wires together, and I'm going to slide my big 8 millimeter cat's eye on here. Now, you want to make sure you're using a fine wire, otherwise you're not going to be able to put 4 wires through a bead. This bead has a little bit bigger hole, but most of them should fit through if it's a nice fine wire that you're using. Then you can drag it down and pull some tension on it, and you have a really nice centerpiece. Now, what you can also do if you want to keep this tension really good is you can go ahead and crimp this right here. Use your size 2 crimp and go ahead and crimp it. And then you can start beading on either side, or you can just put an 11-0 on either side and start beading, and then crimp maybe a little ways down further, down a few beads, so that you can hold your tension. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because once you crimp this together tight, it's hard to separate them and get a nice layout. So I'm going to pick up a 11-0 seed bead on either side of my wires. And then as I do this now, I can separate my beads and make sections of 2 beads like I did on the other one with the black spinel, or whatever I would like. So you could put a couple, like 3 or 4 11-0s on one wire and then a bigger bead on the other wire, and vice versa on the wires, and you do it that way. There's so many different ways you can do this. As long as you have 2 wires you can separate, you can do a lot of variations on either side. So what I'm going to do, just to secure my beads here, my pendant, is I'm going to use another fire polish bead on this side, and then I'm going to get one of my size 1 crimp beads, and I'm going to slide it down on my 2 wires here, And then I'll make sure my tension is really good on this side. Make sure everything's centered before you crimp anything off, because once you crimp it, you can't adjust it again. So you need to make sure you have everything looking the way you want it to look. Separate those wires, hold some tension on it. And then I am just going to just squash this one flat right here. Let's see if I got it. Now, I should have separated my wires, that way I could have a little bit prettier separation on there, but that's okay, it's fine. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. I will go ahead and put a check fire polish, crimp it off, and then I will start stringing on my 2 wires up here, and I will come back and show you what I have. This is, let me get you a little closer so you can see what it looks like so far. And that's what I have so far. I'm going to make this a longer necklace. So what I'll probably end up doing is crimping off and adding chain or something like that. So let me just show you. And I am being very brief with this because this isn't necessarily a tutorial for this particular necklace. It is a tutorial on thinking creatively and doing different things with stringing and crimp beads. And here's the design finished. So after I've crimped these beads here to hold it all together, then I just put on 2 11-0s and put on 7 of the 6mm check fire polish beads with 11-0s in between, 2 11-0s on both strands, and then slid on 1 big bead and then repeated the process. Oh, I see a mistake, I put 3 here. Anyway, you should put 2 11-0s on either side and then continue. And then I just put both the strands together and made a single strand towards the back of the neck, and then I went ahead and put my crimp bead on, went through my clasping and crimped. So that is the way that I finished this. So like I said, this isn't a detailed tutorial. This is just a few ideas of different ways you can string things so that when you get your bead boxes, you can do several different things instead of just putting them on a string. But I'm going to show you close up the pendant portion because I think it turned out really pretty. And that's what that looks like. And instead of making a bigger amount of beads on the outside here, I just made them the same. So when they hang more straight like that instead of having a looped look. And it looks really good on the neck. It turned out really pretty. So if you wanted it to be more straight across or more open, then you could always add a few more beads on the outside strand than you do the inside strand, and then you get more of an open look. But anyway, that's how you do that. And here's the other one I made. And so what I used with this box basically were the bails and the saucer beads and just a few things, the toggles. I did use some of the metal beads, and then I just mixed it with some of the stuff I had in my own stash and from past boxes so that I could make some really pretty pieces. So those are 2 finished pieces. Back off so you can see them. And I think they turned out really pretty. These type of pieces wear really well and they're easy to sell. So anyway, that's what I did with this particular box, and there are a lot more beads in here to use. This little strand of turquoise I may do something with. Then again, I may mix this box with the May box because I have a May box that I'm going to open in a few minutes. And I may make a few pieces in that just so you can see a couple more pieces and a couple more ideas. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye-bye.